Well, guys, welcome to Open House episode. I think it might be 3.
Open house.
Is it
Open home.
Sorry, my bad. Let's cut that.
No, that's
it's
good.
Open.
The Open Home Podcast.
It's the Open Home Podcast, and we're very, very homely. And to my side, I'd like to introduce my son. And it's a special day. It's Josh Merchant.
Yes, and it's my
What's
birthday.
It's your birthday.
27 years old.
Wow.
Everyone keeps saying I'm getting closer to 30 now. I don't really like that.
That's right. And how often can I've got to ask this question, because we're on a lot of billboards together, how often do you get called my brother?
You know what's funny? Every time actually. It flatters
It flatters my ego.
Yeah, your ego's pumped. And I'm kind of sitting there going, how old do they think I am?
I reckon they're doing that to butter us up because, of course.
You can assume the wrong. And a brother sounds better than, hey, is that your dad?
Dad, yeah.
It sounds like, and imagine if it wasn't.
Well, look, if it wasn't. And, but look, I always lead in with the old, how old's your son? Oh, look, he's 26. And they go, geez.
We're 27 now. That's,
you're 27 now. But then they start putting the maths together. They go, oh, so you're, I thought you were sort of late 30s and, giving a wink. And I'm like, well, hey. You're actually bang on point because coming from Frankston, we start early. So I had my son when I was 13.
I've heard this story. It's good. I've heard it every time. Everyone at an open, but it's good.
It's good. It's good dialogue that we can have.
Has a bit of fun.
Bit of fun. Breaks the ice with the buyers. So.
But yeah. By the way, this podcast is sponsored by Merchant Realty for all your buying and selling needs. On the peninsula, feel free to reach out.
It's been a good week, Josh. It's
been a surprising week. I think from the last episode where we sat there and we kind of were like frustrated. I think this has been.
I think it's
a shift.
There's certainly a shift. I think there's certainly when you get offers on properties, as we know, and you're getting a lot of offers, and when the owners aren't probably in that position. And look, unfortunately, there's a couple that are still they could have been sold 3 weeks ago. So that's the frustrating part because at the end of the day, you don't want to see your owner sitting on the market when they're so close to getting that price that they actually want.
Yeah.
But look, in saying that, good week. You've had a couple of good results. Sold one before.
Good. We sold one before auction.
Well done.
And then we sold one just after the auction. Literally, it passed in, and then we got it under contract. So
yeah, that's great.
It's good.
What did we learn from that one at the auction?
What did I learn? Well, I don't have much.
Well, you negotiated.
I have. Yes.
But can I ask a question?
It's very intense. So a lot of people, I think when you watch, if anyone watches the block here, you see the highlight reel and everyone's like, sold, oh, it's passed in. But they don't actually take into account
the negotiations behind the scenes.
Yeah, you go back and forth between every single buyer. The great thing is Juan's an auctioneer. So when he's doing the auction, he knows what bidders are bidding. He knows who the last one holding the hand is. So when he's working for the owner, he can, if it does pass in, he goes straight to that bidder. I make sure I'm keeping in contact with all the other bidders.
Correct.
And then we bounce off one if they can't get the deal done.
Last night was interesting because we had a situation where it was a very intimate setting, couple of people only there. There wasn't a huge crowd.
We did a Wednesday for a lot of people. Wednesday evening auction, and it's very.
And we're 100%. Every time I've done it on a weekday, the best thing with an auction midweek is people can get to work.
Well, you only get the bidders.
Yeah, that's
It kind of makes it like a bit of a private auction, and it was. In essence, you were in the house. It was a bit too dark.
It was a bit too dark. I forgot that
Daylight
savings is, I think, in about a week's time.
In a week away.
So, we're sort of coordinating whether to do it in the street. But look, lucky enough, we got it in the room there. But there was some really good, some good dialogue. And also, look, you mentioned something about the block, and it's great, the auctions. Yeah. There's nothing better than when...
you see the highlight, you see the show, and that's what you're meant to.
And that's why, when the block sets really, when they're realistic in their reserve, because they buy properties and then they construct and there's all this. But when they put a reserve where, I think there was a season where they didn't get much activity.
Well, last season was one of them because the market shifted. They were selling...
Apart from the Lambo guy who came in, I think from...
Yes,
and he just smashed it out of the park, and then everyone else...
And they had the best house though.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. But it was interesting, like my auction experience. I normally when I've been helping you, previous was when I first came out of school.
Yep.
I'd probably just be taking names and numbers. I wouldn't speak anything to the buyers about price. never really negotiate. But now,
Do you remember your first pencil for me?
I remember doing it on a whiteboard. Remember there was one that I did on a whiteboard.
That wasn't the one that you did. The first one you did for me was it was a very proud moment. I remember your Lelo was in the crowd, and this property was in Frankston South in Tetragona Way. I remember we did it in the back of the back. There was a pool. There was a huge deck, and
yeah. I do remember this.
Yeah. And you were penciling, and Dad was in the crowd. So there was 3 generations of me calling the auction, and it was interesting with that one. We actually got, I think, a couple $100,000 over the reserve when only 2 months prior they couldn't even sell it with another agent. So that sticks very fondly in my mind. But, being such a shy, I was like, Josh, you're penciling today. And I remember you were like, I'm not doing that, Dad. I'm not doing it. I'm like, mate, you're doing it.
Yeah,
you were scared. But you were very professional with your
I love it
iPad.
nowadays because they make the penciling 10 times easier with your iPad now, and you can keep count.
How good is it now?
Oh, you keep count, and then once it's all done, the contracts are already pretty much prepared. You just need to put all the details of
populate straight away.
The price, the terms, everything populates. And obviously, the only thing you have to get from the buyer is the details of where they live, what their full names are, and their conveyancer.
And how good is that? So that price, that's one thing with COVID when those tech platforms came out to alleviate and help agents.
Well, they did that because you did online auctions.
You did
you
online.
had to have that.
Yeah, so it was really good. So
No,
it's better than when the old days where you'd do the auction, you'd have the agent writing all the names and numbers. The buyer sometimes would be on the phone, like we saw last night. I'm not sure what I'm going to do, and you're like, hey, we've sold it. We've got to get your contracts. Whereas now, once it's populated, you just get them to sign, and it's
it's automated. But we've had a good week. Have you had a good week?
Yeah, I had a fantastic week.
You've listed a lot of properties, new properties coming on.
I've got a lot in the pipeline still to come in. I think the great thing is when you've been around for a while, and I've been doing it 20 plus years, there's real trust in the market with past clients. And look, you're not going to get every past client, but it could be an agent sold them a home and, they're moving to Whoop Whoop and they're going to give it to that. That's understandable. But I think, having that trust and belief and also, most importantly, results that are in this marketplace that gives,
confidence
it gives the sellers absolute confidence in your ability.
That you're going to get the job done. They want to know that's the main thing, but you've done it time and time again.
Yeah, and I've always had help. So when I sort of started to become a top agent, you can be a top agent on your own. You can be doing a certain amount of transactions. Then when you need to level it up and trend it up, you need that support. So having a team of myself, you, and Heidi, your mum, my wife.
And then you have your accounts team.
And
as
then
well.
I've got my accounts, bookkeeping, and then I've got some VAs. The importance is we can do what we love to do, and that's talk to our clients. Communicate with the buyers and marry them up and negotiate. Like we love to market as well. So it makes our job.
We connect property. That's what we do, and that's
exactly.
what you've done for many years, and I've done for. I'm getting old.
Nice.
Birth 27. Everyone keeps saying that, like 27. They're like,
You
gee,
don't
that
look
makes
it.
me feel old. No. It's more or less everyone says that, and I feel like that is going to be a thing. I mean, remember the clients the other day or the other week when they were like, "Oh, I thought you were 18," until you open your voice, until you open your mouth.
You've got a fortunate position. I mean, I had that when I was 26, 27.
I'd rather look younger.
You rather look younger now, because when you get older, look, age has no prisoners, so you've got to look after yourself.
You want to be like a fine bottle of wine, though. You want to get better with age.
Look, I think you want to get better with age, but I mean, look, one thing that I know, health-wise, I want to, as you get a little bit older, you stop running around with your mates playing footy, you're not going to the gym as often. Time, takes a hold, so you've got to prioritise. So, but mate, to have 27, I remember when you were born. Actually, I was playing. Well, you were in Frankston Hospital, and I remember my mate that the year before I played at Frankston VFL, and the boys my mates came around and they had the cigars because they'd won the grand final in the reserves at Frankston VFA, and the ones just got beaten by Springvale by a kick after the siren, I think it was. And boys came around and we had the cigars. We wet the baby's head, and geez, it was a shock for Mum and I, well, in particular me, to have a baby at such a young age.
Well, yeah, you guys were incredible. I mean, I say incredibly young. You were 20. You were both 20.
Yeah,
so,
I was 19 when I found out. Look, to be
yeah,
upfront,
that would have been hard.
If you put it into context, at the time when we found out you were pregnant, well, Mum was 5 months pregnant. She wasn't showing. When we did
Surprise.
find it was a shock. I'll never forget, and I really am blessed with the doctor. I remember sitting in the doctor's, and it was Heidi's my wife and Josh's mum, and at the time she had a doctor. It was near near the footy ground there. So we went in there, and the lady's name was Sally. And anyway, first thing I said was, "Is there any chance of an abortion?" And she said, "No, it's too far gone." Unbeknownst to me, she was an avid advocate for anti-abortions. So she wasn't for abortion.
Thanks, Sally.
So, but you know the beautiful thing about that is, from that moment on, I knew, geez, at the time I was sitting there, we went from the doctor's surgery, they put us straight into the ultrasound, because usually they said, "No, you've got to go straight away. We're going to make sure that you were okay."
Yeah.
In the oven, but I shipped Heidi down there, and your mum at the time, Heidi was doing like, she loves her food. She was doing a chef course. Yeah. And that was her passion, to be a chef. And mate, I was so unmotivated. I had no jobs. Like I was working for a place called Catalyst, which would give, jobs. They'll ring up and say, "Hey, Josh, we've got a job for you today." And you go, "What am I doing today?" "Oh, you're a furniture remover." Or, you're doing this or that. So there was a lot of, like, I when I look back, if I was Heidi's parents, I'd have been thinking, geez, and a lot of people that I know that said, geez, you're going to struggle because I couldn't hold
you turned out pretty damn good. I think you had a motivator. You had to. You
I had
didn't
to
have a
motivate.
choice.
Yeah.
I guess that's in essence. I guess you could have, as soon as Kaya came along.
That put a rocket.
That was 4 years after me, and that would have put an absolute rocket, because having 2 kids at 24.
24. Yeah, look, and we were lucky to have, like, the energy that you have when you're younger versus when you're older. Like, we've got, I've got 4 beautiful children, and the eldest is 27, the youngest is 8. So the 2 younger ones and 2 older ones, you had way more energy when they were older.
Yeah.
I could go out. Remember those years we would sit there and be kicking the footy?
Yeah, you kick the footy every,
and you'd kick it over the fence and we'd run around in Screen Street there. But, like, I mean, family is everything. It's really important. But yeah, what's been your highlight today, mate? With your...
I actually treated myself and went shopping. I never do that. I never really get myself a gift. So I thought, you know what? If I don't get myself a gift, 1, why do I expect gifts from other people?
Yeah.
But 2, I was like, you know what? That's just, you got to treat yourself. You got to treat yourself as you want to be treated. So if you're not doing the things, for yourself, you got to look after yourself. So yeah, when I got some new work attire, tried to look nice and sharp. So winter sales were on. I love a good. I'm a big avid fan of some sales. If I can get some, I don't really shop much at all. So. Yep.
Can I ask a question? Do you like going into the shops or buying online?
So what's funny? I went into the stores, tried on a few. They weren't in my size. I can get some in though, and wait a week. I'm not waiting. I'm there to buy stuff. Yep. Then and there.
So you went from one shop to
one shop to the next. If I'm not there. I'm on a mission. Like, I'm impatient.
You want to walk out with something.
Yeah. If I'm ordering online,
tangible.
Yeah.
If I'm real estate, you can touch it, you can feel it, you can. You can smell it.
Meanwhile, if anyone watched that one, the ones just sniffed the mic. Anyway, I don't like. What about you? You're not an online shopper. I don't even think you've ever bought anything.
Let me tell you, there was I'm online. I think my first online experience was in COVID, and I think I got a site that it all looked magnificent. Tommy Hilfiger. I got all this stuff, and they.
Oh, this is Oz sale. They rigged you? Not Oz sale. Sorry, I know what you're talking about. The blue one. Catch.com.au.
Yeah. So I got caught. catched. And I think I spent a couple $100 and
Got some fakies.
Got all these fakies, and they fell apart. And I just went, no, that's it. So no, look, I'm more about getting to the property, not to the property, going into the shops, greeting the attendant.
It's actually nice. Like
it's nice to connect.
I negotiated this jacket.
Did you really?
Well, I know that sounds really silly, but I kind of went, you know what? These guys are like, let's be real. There's a markup. This didn't cost that much for them to make. They had it down. What was it? I think $449 to $150, and I just went, I don't really want to spend the $150. I think that's silly.
Awesome.
So I went, you know what? What can you take off? She took $30 off.
Yep.
Got it down to $120.
$120.
Yep.
There's $30 there.
$30.
Couple
100%.
of beers.
Couple of beers. It's
actually 2 beers.
I mean, I'm a real estate
it's-
agent, so it makes sense. I have to do I have to learn my craft when I'm buying stuff too.
Yeah.
I shouldn't just go in and think that I'm gonna.
Yeah.
But if I'm gonna pay full price, every person I know, every buyer I deal with,
100%.
don't pay full price. They don't always, unless there's
don't always,
competition.
but
If there were 3 people bidding for this one thing, then it would have been I would have been in strife.
For
$300.
Yeah, exactly. So
We're going to jump in because this is a really, really funny one.
Yeah.
Because this is talking about online. So it talks about digital contracts.
Yep.
Good
old
but
digital.
it's kind of the correlation is between, in my opinion, digital contracts. So give this a watch.
All set. It's now just a waiting game. The worst case scenario is I am here for the next 10 or 12 hours and nothing happens. On the other hand, something could happen at any moment.
So for anyone who's
That's gold.
who's watching or not watching,
you
we'll
will
put
have
it.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
put the
for
video.
anyone on Spotify, they won't. They'll only get the audio. It's basically someone who's out fishing, and it's like when you send the contract off. And you just play, and basically what he's saying is, and nowadays it's great. You have the DocuSign, you have the real-time agent. You can just send out the thing, but
you can
you
send
are
it.
waiting. You're in the mercy of
the hardest thing is, and I've spoken to Josh about this. He'd say, Dad, because early years, people, you'd sell stock on a Saturday, but Sundays I could be driving and meeting people at cafes or driving over to the other side of town. You'd even have the old fax where that was probably the first digital where you'd throw it in the fax and, they might be in some hotel in the Hilton or the Langham and that you're sending a fax to the secretary, they'd sign it and then send it back and then you'd collate the documents, right? With these DocuSigns, how often have we had that where we send out an authority, it could be an authority for us to be engaged as the agents, and it's sitting there, and I'm like...
But not only that, it happens with contracts with buyers
Contracts with
sometimes. Like this buyer's over in Whoop Whoop. Prime example today.
Yeah,
they view
that's
it,
right, yeah.
but nothing.
Nothing.
I'm just playing the waiting game. I'm in this moment right now. I'm sitting here going, when's this fish going to catch?
And can I ask Josh,
I can't go over to Europe and
no, you can't catch a
sign him
plane
up
to fly over to the UK and...
Well, you
hey,
could,
mate,
but
well, you
it
could,
just
but
becomes an expensive
exercise
for no guarantee.
Well, I think it's there's some really good things. I think when you've got contracts there, and so it's like when you walk into, I remember some buyers will get buyer's remorse. So sometimes we've sent contracts and they don't get signed. And that's a fact. And you talk to
it
any
happens.
agent. And it's a bit like when you go into Telstra or Optus or whichever phone supplier, and they upgrade you and they go, we'll give you this phone and we'll get you on this plan and you sign your documents away. You want to read through the small print, but you sort of go, can I get back to you? And they're putting the hard word on you.
Yeah.
As an agent, we sort of want to get, the deal done for our clients because they're ready to go. We've got a mutual understanding that the price has been agreed. Now it's just formalities, and sometimes buyers will get buyers.
They'll backtrack.
They'll backtrack.
They'll
dodge
do the
and
dance. Yeah.
can we add this? Can we add that onto the contract when the terms were there? It's funny. Old days, there was this guy. He was a really good agent, and I went and bought a place, and it just so happened to be in his office. And the guy, I didn't buy it off this guy, but I bought it off one of his other colleagues. And anyway, he goes, Juan, and he had these jelly beans in a jar. And he goes, would you like one of these? They're called buyer remorse jelly beans. And it was interesting because, you know what? At that particular time, when you're buying a property, you're going to go home and then you'll sort of think about it. Do you know what I mean? Like, have I done the right thing? Could I have waited? Maybe got that other property. have I bought in the right street? Is it north facing? Is it south facing? I don't know.
Is it the right time?
Is it the right
people-
time?
yeah.
Should I wait? I'm talking to Robbo, who knows everything about real estate.
Yeah, Robbo down at the pub, he sold me.
Robbo's
It's a
so-
shocking deal I'm entering. Fuck Robbo.
Robbo knows everything. But guess what? He's only bought fucking 2 properties in his whole life, right? So
He probably hasn't even bought a property. It's always one Robbo.
But that there is classic. You know, you could be sitting. We're waiting now for a contract, and it's been over 24 hours. Now you understand, like we've prepped and explained that to the owners. But yeah, it's sometimes it's how good is it though when you send an authority. And
Well, that's why-
And you sort of go bang. There you go. I'm sending it off.
Yeah.
You send it. Boom.
But we're a big believer for our agency. We won't present an offer verbally to an owner unless it's in a contract because there's no point. It's kind of like saying, "Hey, bird in the hand is worth more than two in the bush." Well, I could say to any owner, "Hey, I've got their price and more," but all of a sudden we actually we don't have any of that. So we'll jump into I think it's a big thing. You know, if you're gonna have an offer, you do want it from the buyer. You want commitment.
For sure.
And if they commit, if they're really serious, they won't have the buyer's remorse. They won't dance around the contract signing. They'll put their they'll commit to it because contracts do protect the buyer too. They actually protect, I'd say, the buyer. You get your cooling off, unless you're buying at auction, you always get your cooling off period.
Yeah.
You've got 3 days.
Yeah.
So
Very true.
We'll jump
very
in.
true.
We're actually on a timeline. What are you going to say?
I was going to say, I know the next video I've got. Now, let me bring it up.
Which one do you want to choose?
I reckon this one here. For those who don't know, it's a couple of cyclists going down the hill.
Oh my god! Are they even cyclists or is it Yeah, no, you're right.
Cyclists.
So basically, it says
So basically, the
live look on how many real estate agents survive after 5 years. We'll turn it off. And basically, all these people just drop, like they just hit each other, they fall, they just go down. You would have seen that over your entirety of your career.
I have, yeah. Well, you've been in it now 8 years.
Yeah,
Can I
I've
ask
seen
a question,
it,
though?
but not as probably much because I've
But
been
even-
in.
Can I ask you this question? Because I know you've had, you've been in real estate from started out as my PA, and then moved into
Like an admin sort of role.
admin role, and you were marketing, etc. And then you went out onto your own.
Yeah,
on your own. And now we're working, co-founder of Merchant Realty Group. There would have been. Can I ask? Seeing that we're at the 5-year point.
Yeah.
That's a real. I always say to people, usually in real estate, it's a real monumental moment where if you have lasted that long, you're either out or in.
Yeah.
But what were you? Have you ever thought about that? Where you went, you know what, I'm bailing out, or have you ever thought of that?
Look, the thought, not really. I mean, I think it becomes. I've probably found more passion.
Because I know when I got to about 4 years, I wanted out.
So I definitely, because I did when I did my own business for close to 2 years, that was hard. That taught me a lot. But it taught me, you know what it taught me? How to deal with clients and actually really understanding how to communicate with people. Yeah. Because prior to that, I probably didn't have much exposure. Yeah. I wasn't front facing to.
Listing wise, were you? I mean, it was a tough time in COVID. So
and there weren't many
to farms. To go out and do all that.
We couldn't, but we had to do. We worked around. Look, we survived, but we could have. There were alternatives and things that we probably were a bit naive on.
Okay. What were they?
We would go letterbox drop, but we would drive out and do the letterbox drops instead of posting mail. Okay. So you could imagine, right, when you're driving, so we were targeting regional towns out in Victoria, out towards Gippsland, all the way out towards Lakes Entrance, right? So you're driving 4 hours.
What was the petrol price then? Because at the moment they're saying they're going to go to $2.80.
It's probably $1.30, probably $1.50. Yeah, probably about $1.50, but much better.
It's $2.25.
Yeah, 2:30 today. I filled up, which is crazy. So anyway, I think
Brunswick Street,
yeah. Look, the thought definitely goes, but I look at it like this. I think I've been in Frank's like with you for over the last year.
But you've been with me. This is the third time. So you've started as. I remember when you came out of school, you weren't sure what you were wanting to do. You wanted to be a gamer. Remember?
Yeah, I wanted to be a game. Yeah.
And I said, Josh, you're coming to work with me because.
Well, it might have been a good idea back then. It would have. This was when all the YouTube and everything had started, but it can't look.
But at the time, I thought.
If I wanted it, I would have done it.
You would have done it. I think the thing was at that time you were very unsure, and I thought by you working, and I've seen it, a lot of people will do it with their own children or friends or nephews or cousins. We'll get them to say, "Hey, come and work with us," and it gives them a bit of a purpose. And we saw you, transcend, and then you went up and worked at a really big firm up in the city, which.
Well, that taught me a lot. That taught me a lot from a lot of process standpoint. Taught me a lot about the industry I was in, which was more development sites and how to navigate and prospect on them.
Yep.
And then I think doing it on my own made me realise that it's just one-on-one real estate and meeting and greeting people and making them feel special and understanding them and what they're after.
Yep.
And then how to try and provide them with that.
Yep.
And then now I'm like, you know what, if I give this a red hot crack, I see the 5-year thing and I'm like, actually inspires me, motivates me more to go, I think you give someone 5 years being consistent in an area, they'll dominate.
They'll dominate. They'll dominate if they do the work.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. But consistently showing up, yes.
I remember, your...
Easier said than done. I'm not at all saying. I hope everyone on this podcast keeps me accountable to this and says, "Josh, where's your results at in a year from now?" And I'm like, "Oh, I want to be there."
You're trending north, which is awesome. And look, I know when I was your age, I got into real estate when I was 24. And look, for the first 3-4 years, I would get some sales. I was selling a lot. I got a job through football, which was great. I was working in a place and actually got some listings pretty quick and did things a little bit different to what the company that I started at. But then I got poached to work in a Mount Eliza firm, and then got poached to go to a Frankston branch. I reckon when they were telling me that I had to work every second Sunday, that's when the penny started to, because you guys were at an age where I needed to be as a father.
Yeah, you wanted to be there.
Like I wasn't there as much. And my
but
results,
you were working.
I was working, but the problem was I wasn't earning. I was earning the commission just to pay my retainer. But I was like a door bitch in some ways, because on a Sunday you're opening up, you're meeting and greeting. That was before internet, so people would walk in, and hardly anyone was. So people started to, the buyer behaviour had started to change. So I think, I actually went for a job. I nearly got it. I actually had to go for a second. With believe it or not, a pharmaceutical company. I nearly got a job there, right? And on the last presentation...
Aren't you glad you did?
I'm glad I did not. Right? No, I'm glad I didn't.
That'd be funny.
I think I wouldn't be there now. But anyway, they had a round table and they had all the directors and the board, and I was going to be a salesman. That's what was the job. Free car, good pay, didn't have to worry about working Saturdays or Sundays. So in my mind, I'm thinking this is great. Clearly, the man.
Why did you think that was great? Was it just because of the time that you had to spend?
Because for me, during footy season, I'd work.
Oh yes, sorry, you were playing footy. Yes,
I was playing footy, so it's Saturday afternoon.
But you were still earning money on Saturday. Yeah,
but I was getting paid to play footy. That's okay. But at the end of the day, what I found was when footy season finished, I actually made more money because I was more invested in.
Well, that's how I look at a lot of people. There's a longevity on AFL or any sport as such, unless you're a golfer, unless you're maybe even Formula One. But there is a life. There's a timeline.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was what I was looking for. There's a timeline, lifespan on that. So for AFL players, you go in from the age of 18 to, if you're a gun, you're there at 35, like an absolute star. Very rarely.
Very rare, yeah.
So it's like you'll set yourself up, don't get me wrong, financially. But at the end of the day, you have to plan outside of that. And there are a lot of player managers nowadays make sure that happens for a lot of...
I've had some scenarios where I've sold homes for AFL players, and when it's all the glitz and glamour, they've got their player managers signing everything, they're doing everything. As soon as they quit or get sacked or, you know,
they're on their own.
retired.
But
they're on their own. So they don't have anyone to model coddle them and actually guide them. So there's a real gap there.
But you've got to, but I think they have to establish that before, like they can't get model coddled from the whole thing. I mean, it's like anything.
But getting back, so like, you know, I froze once again in a round table. There was 5 people and they asked me what was I going to bring to the table. Didn't get the job. And I remember going back and Dad, you know, he was working in for a stockbroker at the time and, you know, pretty clever fella. And he just said, son, I think, you know, you focus all your, you know, you're playing football, you're getting paid there. You need a career and you need to be with your family. So one thing, either you can work. He was always big on working, make sure you provide for the family. He said, but football, as much as I'd love you to keep you might, if you really want this, you're going to have to go harder. So I was doing what everyone else was doing. So I was getting in at, the meetings were at 8:30. I'd get there at 8:27. You know, most people, the managers were looking, if you weren't at, you had to be finished by 5:30. You know, I'd leave it. I'd be looking at going 5:30. Then I turned around. I did more work. I was getting in the office at 7. Yeah. Never took your sister to school. I wouldn't be home till 7. So I realised that for those extra hours that I did multiplied daily, and over a year I started to peg down the guys and then I became the number 1 agent in that firm. So I outworked them, but then I realised I've got to give footy away. And as soon as I gave footy away, bang, within a year, it just went through the roof.
And you made a lot of contacts through footy though.
Yeah,
footy's been it, and that has been the thing that got you into real estate. So it's a good catch-22. You had to give up something, you had to cut something off to grow the other thing, and it worked out very, very well.
Yeah, so it certainly has. And look, it's been amazing with our family. Like my younger brother Damien was the one who got me into real estate. He said, Juan, you know so many people, they like you, they trust you, you're going to be fine. And best advice, like I remember going for that job promotion, not getting that, and he happened to come around that night. So luckily, look,
everything happens for a reason.
Everything happens for a reason. But
anyway, we've got to wrap this up. We've got a birthday dinner to go to.
Yes.
Thanks for listening. This is episode 3. I hope you're having fun. And I can't choose an empty drink, but it's been an absolute pleasure again. And I'll see you in the next one, Dad. If anyone is listening, I'm sure, you know, we're up to number 3. We're not promoting it at the moment, but we will be pushing it loud and clear, I think, when we get up to about episode 10. So anyone who has followed us, we really appreciate it and is listening.
Love the review. So if you if there's a topic of conversation you want us to touch on, happy to discuss that as well. So
we might even
just DM us and
we might even do an episode over a game of pool. I reckon I did have a thought about that and do something a bit unique. So we're going to change it up a bit, have some fun, and we can see who the better player.
You're an ideas man.
On the pool table is.
In the pool room.
Awesome. All right, see you guys.
See you guys.